Welcome, everyone, and good morning. Thanks for joining us today on our seventh edition of IPM Diaries. And the topic today that we are covering is biologics and biosimilars changing the canvas of the Indian pharma market. We we hear a lot of partnerships coming in, a lot of products coming in this market in the market today. Touch this topic. Now, what is the importance of this topic today? Just a minute. Okay. So, if you were to understand why we took this topic today, did you know that over $200 billion worth biologics are about to lose their patent by 2030? From a $35 billion market in 2034 to a $50 billion in 33, the global biosimilars market is reaching its steepest curve in this next decade. And biosimilars, what are biologics? What are biosimilars? What is the edge they have over conventional treatments? And what are the disease areas which are prominently addressed by biologics? Then we will be looking at the evolution of this market in terms of the historical developments at a global level expected to reach and why, and the role of partnerships, the importance of partnerships in this market. India as an attractive destination for biosimilars, why it is seen as an attractive destination by the MNCs as well as the Indian companies, the conducive environment, the government support, and the long-term outlook. So first we look at the need for biologics and biosimilars. How are biologics different from the conventional molecules or the conventional molecular drugs that we have in the market today? We have looked at a few parameters. Now there may be many more parameters for comparison, but we have just taken the key parameters that will help us understand the key differences. Now, as far as the biologics are concerned, they are usually large molecules, often proteins, antibodies, or nucleic acids with complex three-dimensional structures. Whereas conventional drugs are smaller molecules with well-defined and relatively simple structures. Probably, when I'm talking, this may not give you a fair idea. So this chart will give you a diagrammatic understanding of the relative size of biologics in comparison to a conventional drug. If you see, the size is quite big. And because of this size, for a biologic to be administered properly and absorbed properly in the body, it needs to be given as an injection. Then the manufacturing process. It involves a complex process like cell culturing, purification, and formulation, which can be more challenging to control. Whereas in case of conventional drugs, they are chemically synthesized in the laboratory, often used, the quarterly standard are used, and the entire process is controlled and a reproducible process. Now, as far as the manufacturing process, in case of biologics, there are two key manufacturing processes. One is the gene therapy and the second one is the recombinant protein production. When we talk about the gene therapy, it is the genetic material introduced into a patient's cells to treat or prevent a disease. So modified viruses, also called as viral vectors, are used as delivery vehicles, or another option is non-viral methods like lipid nanoparticles to carry the therapeutic genes are used. The process often involves cultivating cells, inserting the desired gene into a vector, and then delivering the vector to the patient's cell, either directly in the body or outside the body, and then transplanted. Some of the common examples or the latest drugs in gene therapy are Zolgensma, which is for treating spinal muscular atrophy in children under 2 years, and Luxturna, which is used for treating inherited retinal dystrophy. Now, when it comes to the recombinant protein production, what we see is recombinant proteins are produced by inserting a gene encoding a desired protein into a host cell like a bacteria, yeast, or mammalian cells, and these cells then produce the protein, which is subsequently harvested and purified. Examples are insulin, erythropoietin, human growth hormone, monoclonal antibodies, and vaccines. Yes, In the first slide itself, I can understand that things have started getting too technical. But if we don't understand the technical aspects of these products, we will not be in a position to understand why these products are very important and have that edge over conventional therapy. That's the reason why I had to take some technical part in this session. Next is the characterization. Due to their complexity, biologics are often difficult to fully characterize and may have subtle differences between the batches itself. However, if you look at the conventional drugs, the structures are well defined and allow for thorough characterization and quality control. Clinical effects can be harder to predict and may vary from patient to patient because, again, these are biological products. How a patient's body responds to it will differ. On the other hand, effects are generally more predictable due to their well defined structure and manufacturing. Targeted therapies, often used to target specific proteins or pathways involved in diseases like autoimmune disorders, cancers, genetic conditions. Whereas for conventional drugs, they can be used for a variety of range of conditions but may not always have the same level of precision that biologics have. And as far as the cost and accessibility is concerned, they're generally more expensive, whereas conventional drugs are usually very affordable. So why are biologics so expensive? One is they are complex because they are prepared from biological products which are inherently larger and more varied than the chemicals used to develop smaller molecules. And since they are composed of living cells, they are more temperature sensitive and more likely to require special storage conditions. Also, they require a lot of expensive research. It's not a simple chemical molecule that is synthesized, but a biologic product is synthesized. So, just research, develop, and commercialization, it may take average 10 years or more. And clinical trials also may range between 6 to 7 years. This is a pretty long time of R&D that goes into consideration. Also, bringing a single drug to market can cost around $2.6 billion or more. Biologic costs are especially high due to specialized materials, equipments required to research, develop, and test the therapy. And the third is they are administered by injection or infusion because of their size. As I had talked in the previous slide, because they are so big for effective absorption, they have to be injected. The cost of storing temperature sensitive medications, providing space for infusions, and necessitating the healthcare provider time also adds to the overall price of biologics. Unlike smaller molecules that can be easily dispensed in pharmacies, biologics often require specialized pharmacies. If you see, if any of us or any of our relatives are taking any biologics or biosimilars, we see that usually a retailer doesn't come into the picture. You usually procure it directly from the company or the distributor of the company. This is essentially to ensure that many hands are not involved and the storage conditions are well maintained so that the efficacy of the product stays. Diseases where biologics play a major role today. Now, the diseases that I am showing in these slides would be the prominent diseases. Probably there are some other diseases also that get covered by the biologics or the biosimilars market. The autoimmune and inflammatory disorders like rheumatoid arthritis, irritable bowel syndrome, then psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis. Now, these are the biologics that are used, the TNF inhibitors, the IL inhibitors, the CD20 inhibitors. Now, in my entire presentation, I will not necessarily take names of all the molecules because by now I know everybody knows that the names of the molecules are real tongue twisters and I may end up making mistakes in pronouncing some of them. But then just what we need to understand in this session is if you look at the names of the biologics used, they are inhibitors. So there is something which triggers some response in the body which leads to these conditions. And biologics inhibit the entities which are responsible for those responses. That's the reason why inhibitors. So the biologics used, these may be the molecules, but these molecules act as inhibitors of certain enzymes or certain proteins. Then in case of oncology, breast cancer, colorectal cancer, lung cancer, these are the prominent cancer conditions in which biologics are used, and there may be many more, but these are the prominent ones. Monoclonal antibodies are the key biologics used, but besides monoclonal antibodies, we are seeing that the CAR T therapies are also emerging well in India today. Besides these two major disorders, we see that chronic respiratory diseases like severe asthma, Biologics have an important role to play. Neurology, conditions like multiple sclerosis or, no, or neuromyelitis optica, or diabetes. Insulin is a very age old biologic that has been used. Probably after this biologics and biosimilar discussion, then it registered that okay, insulin is a biologic or a biosimilar. Vaccines are very important examples of biologics or biosimilars. In this session I'm not taking vaccines much because what happens is we are talking about little advanced diseases. Vaccines would be proactive type of biologics or biosimilars, whereas we are looking at biologics or biosimilars which come into action after a person is infected by a disease. And last but not the least, osteoporosis. In osteoporosis, there are molecules like denosumab, which is a mAb that inhibits bone resorption, or romosozumab, which is a mAb that stimulates bone formation, or teriparatide. So biologics, depending upon the type of what to say trigger that they are taking action against, they can have varied types of action. Also, what is important is depending upon the type of patient, the type of disease condition, the entire therapy protocol has to be customized for a patient. That's the reason why it is very important to take a biologic under medical supervision only. The dosage, the disease conditions, the contraindications, everything need to be taken care of properly. Now, let us do is when we talk about the advantage of biologics over conventional drugs, we say that they are target specific. Now, what is the advantage of being target specific? First is improved efficacy. By targeting the specific molecules driving a disease, the biologics can be more effective in treating underlying cause of the condition rather than just managing the symptoms. This targeted approach can lead to better disease control and improved patient outcomes. Second is reduce side effects. As the smaller molecules, now conventional drugs are smaller molecules, though they go and act on every cell, okay? Whereas biologics, they are supposed to act only on limited cells. Since they are highly specific and they are designed to interact with a single target, the chances of affecting other systems come down, and also the unwanted side effects are reduced significantly or in many cases don't exist. Personalized medicine, the ability to tailor biologics to specific targets allows for more personalized treatment approach. For example, in cancer treatment, biologics can be designed to to target specific cancer cell markers, potentially leading to more effective and less toxic therapies. Now, this is, it's all, I would say, theoretical. Now, what we have done is just to give a flair of this target specificity and why biologics are wow in the market today. Let us take three disease conditions where biologics are used. So, we have taken denosumab used in osteoporosis, MABs used in rheumatoid arthritis, and trastuzumab used in breast cancer. A very, I would say, a very, very simple way of looking at how these molecules act and why they are considered as the wow drugs in treatment of these conditions. Before we even look at how the molecule acts in osteoporosis, a simple understanding in our body, we have osteoblasts, which help in bone formation, and osteoclasts, which help in bone breaking or resorption. So osteoblast, they create a protein rank ligand. I will just name it as protein rank L in the body. What does this protein rank L do? This protein rank L goes and sits or connects with the receptor on the immature osteoclasts. Now, once this ligand sits on these receptors, these immature osteoclasts, they fuse. Two, three osteoclasts fuse and form mature osteoclast. Since the fusion occurs, you will see that each osteoclast has more than one nucleus. Once the osteoclast is formed, it attaches to the bone surface and causes bone resorption or bone erosion. And once this process happens, then our osteoblasts come into action. They synthesize and deposit a matrix made up of collagen and other proteins called osteoid, which then hardens as it mineralizes with the calcium and phosphate. Now, what is the need for this cycle? This is a very important cycle in the body. As you see, when children grow, once a bone breaks, only then a new bone has to be formed. Especially if you see whenever there are growth spurts, when hormonal changes happens in the children, girls as well as boys, these hormonal changes are also triggered with growth in height or overall faster development within the body. And these are the hormones which lead to faster breaking of the bone. Once the bone breaks, the new bone is formed and increases the length of the bone size. Now, this is a very, in a very simple and layman language that I have talked. This is not a scientific language. So I have just taken example of estrogen. What does estrogen do? Now estrogen is for females and androgen plays a similar role in males. So estrogen, it regulates this rank L hormone. So once this is regulated, then this bone breaking process gets regulated. It doesn't become rampant. Now, what happens after menopause? The levels of estrogen drop significantly. And once the levels of estrogen drop significantly, then this control is lost and the bone breaking process becomes faster. Now, what are the conventional therapies or drugs that we give is either you give a estrogen replacement therapy or you ask the patient to be on calcium and vitamin D3 supplements. Now, calcium and vitamin D3 supplements help osteoblast. They don't stop the action of osteoclast while estrogen regulates, but it has got its own set of side effects. Now, where does denosumab come into action? Now, denosumab, this is what is denosumab? Now, it will bind to this rank ligand and it will prevent binding of this rank ligand to the osteoclast. And once this binding is, once this binding is prevented, the immature osteoclasts, they stay immature and they do not, they don't become, they don't fuse together. And as a result, this rate of bone resorption comes down significantly. Now, if you see the extent or the time period to which denosumab stays in the body is almost 6 months, and the dosing frequency is 60 milligram injection once in 6 months. Of course, denosumab is not the solution for osteoporosis. The patient also has to be on calcium and vitamin D3 doses besides denosumab injection. But then for 6 months, the osteoporosis or the bone resorption process is taken care of. And immediately after 6 months, the next injection has to be given. Now, many companies do a good amount of customer relationship management or CRM activities wherein they do give a reminder to the patient in time. A nurse is sent to the patient's house to give the injection. Obviously, if the price is so high, this service is also come into picture. Next is the rheumatoid arthritis piece. Now, just let us understand the arthritis thing. This is our healthy joint. Unknown triggers like genetic factors, environmental factors, smoking, bacteria, viruses, they actually activate T cells. Now, these T cells, they produce inflammatory entities like cytokines like IL-6, IL-12, TNF alpha. And what do these inflammatory cytokines do? They start the inflammatory process. They create a lot of extra fluid in this synovium, which is the bone joint, and it stretches the entire bone joint out of the stage. Out of the shape, and because the excess fluid is created, there is a lot of pain and swelling, and this further destroys the cartilage and causes bone erosion. Now, this is the rheumatoid arthritis bone. Now, once this damage is done, it's very difficult for the patient to even walk. Now, how does our adalimumab act? This adalimumab, it acts over here. It blocks the inflammatory pathway. It does not allow these inflammatory cytokines to act. So this inflammatory pathway is blocked and further damage to the joint is taken care of. It doesn't happen. It cannot repair, but it can prevent further damage. So these are the different types of products that can be used. Now there are TNF alpha inhibitors, IL-1 receptor antagonists, IL-6 receptor antagonists. Now these are different type of products which act on different triggers for this condition. Depending upon the patient condition and the doctor's advice, the relevant medicine is given to the patient. And the last one is, let us look at the breast cancer. Now, HER2 protein exists on the surface of the breast cell and is essential for normal breast development. In some cases, HER2 protein becomes overactive. And what is cancer? Cancer, you see there is a cancer tumor formed. It means that there is a rampant development or production of certain cells which become malignant. Now, because of this overactive HER2 protein, it leads to uncontrolled growth and results in breast cancer. Now, what does trastuzumab do? Trastuzumab, it binds to the HER2 receptor on cancer cells and prevents this unnecessary proliferation of cancer cells. And this is taken care of. Now, trastuzumab, again, it has to be given in three types of doses. There is a loading dose, there is a maintenance dose, and there is a continued dose, which is probably once in 3 weeks to complete a 1 year therapy. Again, trastuzumab is not the 100% therapy protocol for breast cancer. It is an adjuvant to chemotherapy. Now, hope with these examples, we have understood what is the targeted approach that biosimilars and biologics have and why they become a wow factor in treating certain disease conditions. Now, the market today in India is becoming a prominently biosimilars market. Biologics are the innovators, and biosimilars would be, in a layman's term, considered as the generic versions of biologics. Now, are they different? Are they similar? Now, here I will not take too much in detail. I will just focus on the points that I have highlighted in blue color. So while biologics are large complex molecules derived from living cells, over here in biosimilars they are highly similar to the approved biologic or approved biologic. In the entire presentation it will be terming it as a reference product. The development process, it is full discovery based R&D. It includes target identification, molecule discovery, preclinical testing, and all clinical trials from phase 1 to phase 4. As far as a biosimilar is concerned, it is reverse engineering to the reference biologic, and it has to be structurally and functionally similar. Clinical trials, all the clinical trials from phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 are necessary for a biologic, whereas for a biosimilar, it is abbreviated trials. The focus is more on the phase 1, which is pharmacokinetic and pharmacodynamics comparison, and phase 3, wherein we have a comparison for the efficacy and the safety. R&D time typically for a biologic 8 to 12 years, here it is 5 to 8 years. R&D investment is huge, and because the R&D investment is huge, they are extremely expensive. Manufacturing process is a complex process for a biologic. For a biosimilar, it was replicate the same molecular characteristics using similar recombinant technology. Efficacy, um, efficacy is proven through large-scale phase 2 and phase 3 trials, and it has to be the best in class. In case of biosimilar, a comparative clinical study is done to show that it is non-inferior or equivalent to the reference product. As far as safety is concerned, it has to be a biosimilar has to be equal in safety and efficacy to a biologic. Regulatory pathway over here, it is they have to apply for a new biologics license and requires full safety, efficacy, and CMC data. Whereas over here, it is a abbreviated pathway and focuses more on the analytical similarity and limited clinical data. Cost, if you see, because of this entire R&D investment, time investment, the facilities that are required are huge, and that's the reason why biologics are expensive, whereas biosimilars are lower by 20 to 60% of that of a biologic. As far as patent exclusivity is concerned, biosimilars can enter the market only after a biologic goes off patent. Now, this is the similarity or differences between the biologics and biosimilars. To summarize this section, biologics and biosimilars play an important role in the treatment of certain disease conditions where conventional drugs may not provide optimal results. Target specificity of this class of drugs gives significantly improved efficacy with reduced side effects. The entire production process, right from R&D, manufacturing, storage, and administration requires special conditions and care. This makes this set of products extremely expensive. Biosimilars provide an economical alternative to biologics. The next section, we look at the evolution of biologics and biosimilars market. We will look at the global trend, the local trend, the market forecast, where is the market expected to go globally and where is the market expected to go in India, and what are the different partnerships that are happening in India as far as this market is concerned. Now, if you look at the global evolution, we have divided this global evolution into four stages depending upon different decades. The first decade, 1980 to 1990, this is a discovery phase where the first biologic was launched by Genentech, the recombinant insulin. Before that, we had bovine insulins, which were animal based. Then in late 80s and 90s, patents were filed in erythropoietin interferon, CSF. There were no regulatory frameworks then, and biologics were treated as novel drugs. In the next phase, which is the regulation and approvals phase, as far as Europe is concerned, there were regulatory guidelines initiated. First approval for Omnitrope was obtained. In case of US, the Biologics Price Competition and Innovation Act was brought into picture. FDA pathway was started, and in India, the first biosimilar approval was obtained in 2000. In fact, this was the first biosimilar approval even globally, which was approved in 2000 for a Biovac vaccine from Wokhad for hepatitis B. But there was no formal regulation until then. The third phase, which is the market growth phase, Europe provided broad approvals for erythropoietin, filgrastim, monoclonal antibodies. In US, the uptake was slow due to patent litigations and formulary resistance. As far as Japan and Korea is concerned, there were tailored regulations with cautious launches. The price drops of 20 to 80% were seen in European market the moment the approvals for biosimilars came into picture. And phase 4, which is the maturity phase. 90 plus biosimilars approved in Europe with high physician confidence. In US, close to 45 plus approvals by 2025. And majorly the growth that we was seen in US was in the oncology market. In certain countries of Europe, India and Korea, there was more export focused manufacturing hubs. Now, when we talk about country specific timelines and strategies, we have taken three core countries because we felt that these are the relatively bigger countries for the biosimilars market, some in terms of value and some in terms of absolute volumes. So in European Union in 2024, EMA became the first agency to European Medical Association became the first agency to issue biosimilar specific regulations. The first approval in 2006 for Omnitrope. The first MAB biosimilar approved was in 2013. And by 2023, over 90 plus biosimilars were approved with deep physician and payer confidence. Initially, when these biologics and biosimilars came into picture, since they are biologic product, and not the simple chemical entities, even a good number of physicians were a little skeptical. But over a period of time, since this product stayed in the market for almost 2 decades and they showed the results, the physician confidence definitely increased. And Europe today, or European Union today, is the most mature biosimilar market globally. If you look at US, the Biologic Price Competition and Innovation Act was passed in 2009. FDA formalized a biosimilar regulatory pathway in 2010. The first biosimilar was approved for the filgrastim by Sandoz was approved in 2015, and 45 plus approvals were obtained in the market. The market was slowly opening due to litigation and uptake barriers. So in US, it was more the litigation aspects which slowed down the biosimilars growth. Europe was relatively faster. So while Europe is a mature market, US today is considered as a growing market with MABs biosimilars, especially in oncology space, gaining more traction. As far as the India is concerned, world's first biosimilar, which is the hepatitis B vaccine Biovac B from Wokhad, was approved in 2000. After that, there was a gap. In 2012, the first formal biosimilar guideline issued by CDSCO and DBT. Then in 2016, the revised guidelines aligned with WHO and EMA. Now in 2023, 100 plus biosimilars are approved in the country, and key players in the market include Biocon, DRL, Intas and Zydus. They are more on the partnership with certain core manufacturers who may be international players, but they also have a strong hold in the commercial part of the market or making the products available to the general masses. Also, as far as the status is concerned, it is an evolving regulatory ecosystem and strong domestic manufacturing. As we go ahead, we see that the entire environment of the country is becoming very conducive for biosimilars and growth of biosimilars market in the country. Now, global comparisons, where does India stand today? While we compare ourselves with US and Europe, where are we today? So if you look at the first biosimilar approval had come to India in 2010, in 2000. After that, it was Europe, and after that, US was relatively late. It was 2015. As far as formation of regulatory framework is concerned, Europe was the first one, followed by USA, followed by India. As far as the interchangeability rules, now let us understand what are these interchangeability rules. So when a biosimilar is produced, you either need to arrive at the final product using the same process that a biologic is used. Okay, in that case, interchangeability is not allowed. You cannot deviate from a single step, or you cannot deviate from a single indication for which the product has to be used. So in India, it is not allowed at all. In US, it is partially allowed. In Europe, it is allowed because as long as you arrive at a final product which meets the entire efficacy, safety, structure, safety profile, everything, as long as it is met, this interchangeability is allowed. As far as market maturity is concerned, in 2025, Europe is the most mature market, USA is catching up, and India is a growing market. Interesting part is India in 2025 resembles where Europe was in 2012, a robust pipeline and policy evolution which is underway. Coming to tracing 25 years of India's biosimilar journey. We have broken down this journey into four parts: the foundational years, the boom phase, the expansion into international markets. Now let us look at the first. The first time approvals for recombinant biologics across therapeutic areas were found in the foundational years. The Indian biosimilars landscape began with Biovac B for hepatitis, led by Wokhard. Incidentally, even erythropoietin biosimilar, Wokhard was the first company to get the erythropoietin biosimilar approval as well. The early 2000s saw leading firms like Intas, Wokhard, Dr. Reddy's, Genova, and Reliance Life Sciences enter the space, focusing on recombinant hormones and growth factors. Next comes the boom phase. In 2012, India introduced its biosimilar policy, laying the foundation for a more structured regulatory environment. In 2013, Biocon, in partnership with Mylan, received its approval for its trastuzumab biosimilar to Herceptin, the world's best-selling breast cancer drug. In 2014, Zydus Cadila became the first company to receive approval for biosimilar of AbbVie's Humira, the world's top-selling drug at that time. In the expansion into international market, from 2016 to 2020, India saw over 25 biosimilar approvals across various therapeutic areas, including oncology, immunology, nephrology, and these approvals for both monoclonal antibodies and other biologics, marking a significant increase in India's biosimilar market activity. Companies like Reliance Life Sciences, Intas, Hetero Drugs, DRL laboratories were key players in bringing these therapies to the market. From 2021 to 25, India's biosimilar industry continued to build on momentum of previous years, experiencing rapid growth. During this period, 56 approvals were granted with significant advancements in oncology, autoimmune diseases, ophthalmology, diabetes care, and other rare conditions. This phase also saw emergence of newer players such as Enzyme Biosciences, Shilpa Biologicals. Now these are new players which are experts, or they have developed expertise in developing biosimilars. They may not be seen in the market as in the commercial aspects or reaching to patients, but they definitely partner with bigger players to make the product available for commercialization. Now, this is again a small gist. It may sound a little repetitive, but then let us look at the global and local biosimilars journey. In 2012, the first biosimilar approved by Biovac. Second, in 2024, EMA becomes the world's first regulator to define a formal biosimilar approval pathway. 2006, first EMA approved biosimilar Omnitrop. In 2009, US passes Biologic Price Competition and Innovation Act. 2006 to 11, multiple biosimilars approved without centralized regulatory pathway in India. In 2010, FDA begins formalizing biosimilar pathway, adopts 351K approvals process in US. In 2012, India issues its first official biosimilar guidelines. In 2013, first MAB biosimilar approved by Europe. In 2014, launch of CanMab, that is trastuzumab by Biocon, India's first MAB biosimilar. In 2015, first US FDA approved biosimilar for filgrastim by Sandoz launched in US. In 2016, India updated guidelines aligned with WHO and EMA standards. In 2016, EMA introduces multi-switching and interchangeabilities concepts. Between 2016 and 2020, legal and patent litigation delays widespread uptaking, delays a widespread uptake in US. In 2020, more than 60 biosimilars approved in Europe, high biosimilar penetration seen globally. In 2020, US FDA begins allowing interchangeable biosimilars in the country, and over 100 biosimilars approved in 2023 in India, and Biocon becomes a global exporter for biosimilars. In 2023, 45, approximately 45 biosimilars approved in US, and EMA in 2023 has 90 plus biosimilars across multiple therapy areas with centralized tracking and safety monitoring system. So this was a crisp understanding or gist of how the entire journey has been for the world, as well as where does India stand in this journey. Next, let us look at the biosimilars that have been approved in India from 2015 to 2019. Now, I really did not get the entire list to till 2025. So, my table is restricted only till this time period, but I'm sure there are many more molecules that have got their approvals. So some of the key molecules are teriparatide, ranibizumab. Again, as I said, I will not go on pronouncing the entire thing because they are tongue twisters. But then if you see the type of conditions, disease conditions for which the biosimilars have got approval, are little complex disease conditions. Also, if you see this molecule where it has got approval for several disease conditions, not necessarily all the approvals have been approved, they have been obtained in that particular year. There may be certain indications for which approval was obtained in year 1, in 2018 some conditions, 2019 some indications, they got approval. That's the reason why we always see that if this molecule is used for this disease condition, is it approved? We discussed in our previous slides the interchangeability rules. So if the disease condition is not approved for that particular molecule, then you cannot use that molecule for that particular disease, even if it works. So for India, the indication has to get approval. So that's the reason why all these molecules have got approvals for different disease conditions in different periods of time. Now, if you look at the futuristic growth of the biosimilars market, the market today is somewhere at about 4.99. The value that I'm showing just now over here, it is value in INR billion. So if you look at this, the market is going to move from 4.99 INR billion to 16.49 INR billion in less than a decade. So this is talking about a collective CAGR of close to 14.2%. And this is a really attractive rate, growth rate that we see for the market in India today. Now there are the key biosimilar companies. Now why do we bring this into picture is this is the reason why everybody is interested in taking or entering the biosimilars market, whether it is getting into R&D yourself or partnering with Indian companies so that you can have access to the patients. Now, if you look at the biosimilars market, the products are expensive. So, in terms of volumes, it may not be big. But if one injection of a biosimilar is going to cost you anywhere between 15,000 to 20,000, then in terms of absolute value, it's a very big market. If you look, even when we looked at the earlier slides, the frequency of dosage, it is one injection once in 6 months or one injection once in a month, once in 3 months. So, volumes may not be very high, but in terms of value, at a discounted rate of 20% to 60%, still it is a very big market. Now, these are the key biosimilar companies in India. Now, over here, these are the companies which are involved in the R&D and manufacture. So, we may not see Eris, Zydus, Intas as such over here. We will see these companies in the next slide where we look at the partnerships. Now, these are the companies who have their biosimilars and they are bringing these biosimilars in India. If you see the areas in which they focus, they are mainly advanced disease conditions like oncology, immunology, inflation, diabetology, endocrinology, etc. And they partner either with the local organizations to speed for commercialization, or they have a licensing and co-marketing agreement, or they directly supply and to ensure that there is a market control, or they co-develop with certain companies. So this is how these players, these MNC players have partnered, or they have strategies for the country. These are some more companies which are active in the biologic segment in India. They are collaborating with the Indian players, or they are collaborating with major CROs, CMOs, etc. So It's like they have taken just the top 10 companies. There may be many more, but then everybody is targeting or eyeing to enter the Indian market through some sort of partnership or the other. Now, which are the biologics? Now, why are they looking at entering this India, entering the biosimilars market? So what we have seen is we have looked in the next 4 years, which are the biosimilars that are going to go off patent. I will not be pronouncing the names of all the biosimilars, but what we need to look at, what is the global sales of these biosimilars as of today or as of 2024. I could not manage to get the global sales for all the molecules. So in some cases, you will not see the global sales in this sheet. But you see, these are huge molecules, and these biologics actually have a significant turnover globally. In 2026, there will be three biologics which will be going off patent. In 2027, we have this entire again four molecules going off patent. Prominently, the one Trulicity from Eli Lilly, which is used for type 2 diabetes. In 2028, Keytruda is going off patent, Opdivo is going off patent, and in 2029, these are the three molecules that will be going off patent. So you'll see, if I just calculate, there will be 15 biologic molecules that will be going off patent in 2000 by 2029. And this is a huge opportunity that everybody is sensing and looking at entering the market today. Now, why are partnerships important in the biologics or biosimilars market? One is addressing the complexity and the cost. As we had seen in the earlier slides, the entire process is complex. You need that sort of expertise. You also need complementary skills. I may be an expert in doing the R&D, manufacturing, and getting the product, but then I require an equally skilled company to commercialize the product, have relationship with the doctors, having the ability to create the customer base, the customer relationship management. All those services are very important. Accessing global markets, market diversification, overcoming regulatory hurdles. Now, MNC would want to tap the Indian biosimilar market, but partnering with the Indian player becomes important because regulatory hurdles of India can be managed by the Indian partner only. Third is the type of partnerships, joint ventures, co-development and licensing agreements, and strategic alliances that may be important. And futuristic benefits, sustained growth is important. Increased access to medicines through biosimilars, a huge or a bigger mass of population, which was earlier unable to take the product or unable to take the advantage of the biologic because of the costing is available for consumption of this product. So biosimilars, through biosimilars, there is a increased access to these medicines, and innovation also is driven because of partnerships. Now I have taken here a few prominent partnerships in the biologics and biosimilar segment. Now there will be many more, so I have not taken all. What we try to understand from this slide is good number of partnerships are between Indian and MNC companies. Now, when I'm putting here Intas slash Accord Healthcare, each Indian company or most of the Indian companies have their subsidiary company which is focusing on or which is specializing in the biosimilar segment. If you see, all of them have tied up. So, this Curatech, it is a subsidiary of Aurobindo. Lupin is Lupin on its own. But then if you see, Intas and Aurobindo, they have their subsidiary biologic company. And if you see, there are a good number of molecules on which there is a partnership. Similarly, if you look at these enzyme biosciences, if you see enzyme biosciences in our previous slide, we had discussed two companies, Enzyme Biosciences and Shilpa, which were coming up as the growing biosimilar companies in India. So they have also partnered with the UK-based companies. Here, while they have partnered with a UK-based company, Lupin and Enzyme Biosciences have also partnered for a biosimilar of cetuximab. So we see a good number of partnerships that are happening between Indian and MNCs, and some partnerships happening between Indian and Indian companies for the launch of biosimilars in the country. So to summarize this section, the biosimilars journey is globally on a very fast track. India in 2025 resembles where the European Union was in 2012. A robust pipeline and policy evolution is underway. Over $200 billion worth biologic drugs are about to lose their patent in 2030. This makes it more important for players in India to expedite efforts to grab this opportunity. Several partnerships are seen in between Indian players with MNCs or upcoming domestic biosimilar players to make the most of this opportunity. Then we move to our next section, India as the attractive destination for biosimilars market. Now, why does India become a favorable destination for biosimilars market? We have just considered three key points. There will be more, but then we try to keep it crisp and precise. The Make India movement. One of the major reasons for rapid growth of biosimilars in India is the Make in India campaign from the government. Under this policy, regulatory clearances have taken up pace that gives a great momentum to biosimilar companies in India. Additionally, the provision of incentives to companies for domestic manufacturing has also been of great help from the government. The next is rapid healthcare expenditure. Whether public or private, India's expenditure on healthcare sector is on the rise. However, out-of-pocket costs are still high, but with biosimilars, affordable alternatives to biologics are also rising. And the last one is the global partnerships and tech transfer. We have seen a lot of global partnerships in our previous slides. Multinational pharma companies aren't ignoring India anymore, they are teaming up. An array of MNCs are also now partnering up, which has also led to rise in foreign direct investments too. In addition to that, the tech transfer activity is also playing a major role, especially for monoclonal antibodies and the next gen biosimilars. India's talented, cost efficient personnel and regulatory maturity attracts the biosimilar companies. So today there are a good number of colleges that are available to treat or to train the personnel or the resources required for the R&D in biosimilars market today. Now, there is an important agency, the Biotechnology Industry Research Assistance. Just a minute. Okay, the BIRAC. This is an initiative of the Biotechnology Industry Research Assistance Council, also the short form taken as BIRAC, which is an initiative of the Department of Biotechnology and Government of India. It is actively investing for fostering innovation and research in the biotechnology industry with focus on biosimilars. Now, the National Biopharma Mission, which is launched by this DBT with support from World Bank, it is implemented by BIRAC and it aims to accelerate the development of biopharmaceuticals, including biosimilars. So, biosimilars is a subset over here. Financial assistant, it provides financial support through various schemes like BIPP or SBIRI and promotes academic research, assisting small and medium sized biotech firms in biosimilar development. Ecosystem development. BIRAC is focused on building an ecosystem that encourages innovation and development of novel biosimilar products. Also, specific biosimilars are supported. BIRAC has supported the development of numerous biosimilars, including those for trastuzumab, insulin, glargine, and other, according to Biospectrum India. Coming on next on is focus on early development. The National Biopharma Mission aims to accelerate biosimilar development from research to early stage of development. Clinical Trial Network. BIRAC has also established a clinical trial network under the National Cancer Grid, strengthening clinical trial capacity and providing a platform for biosimilar development. Policy and regulatory support. BIRAC works on collaboration with DBT and the Central Drug Standard Control Organization to develop policies and guidelines that simplify the regulatory pathway for biosimilars. So, in essence, BIRAC plays a crucial role in promoting and nurturing biosimilar development in India by providing financial, technical, and regulatory support to the companies and research institutions. To summarize this section, the population dynamics, awareness of global treatments, and affordability of biosimilars makes India an attractive biosimilars market. MNCs look forward to tie up with Indian companies. Several government initiatives and programs supported by BIRAC encourage faster development in the area of biosimilars. India today seems to be geared up well to make the most of this biologics and biosimilars opportunity. So this was all that we had to present. I'm sure this topic is vast. We really could not cover the entire topic in this limited time period, but I'm sure this gives you a fair idea about how is the biosimilars market evolving and why it is a very important market for all the pharma players in the country today. Kindly send us your response, your feedback on this edition of IPM Diaries. The lead authors, Richa Chaudhary, Gargi Dikshit, and Ojas Dandekar from my team have supported me a lot in preparing this. In fact, good amount of work has been done by these people. And this is how we have worked and we have brought this paper to you. Regarding IPM Diaries, IPM Diaries is an initiative from Farmer Act that focuses on strategic areas that drive exponential growth in the Indian pharma industry. Now we this is the seventh episode. Before this, there were six episodes. First one was Power of Mother Brand. Second was Strategic Partnerships in the Indian pharma market, Evolution of Lifestyle Diseases and how they have shaped the Indian pharma market, Growth levers of the Indian healthcare industry, the Davids and Goliaths of the pharma industry who collectively strengthen the IPM, and the role of MNCs in driving the growth of IPM. If you have missed any of these sessions, kindly connect with us. We can share with you the link for the webinars as well as the actual papers. You can connect with me or any of my team members mentioned over here. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you find this paper useful. Kindly send us your feedback and suggestions on the type of interesting research papers that would be beneficial to the industry. Thank you so much today. Thank you very much.